Hello and welcome to another episode of Life in Spain Unfiltered. Okay, today I'm going to talk to you about quite a controversial and serious subject, that of immigration, and a particular story that I stumbled upon over the weekend. Now, immigration is, of course, a subject that divides people a lot of the time and causes constant arguments, be it politically or socially. But what happened here over the weekend gives you an illustration of maybe how the media are kind of hiding up a lot of these stories. Now, I follow a lot of alternative media here and channels on, be it YouTube or through various social media outlets. And often I come across stories which aren't being reported in the mainstream news. Now, I watch the Spanish news on a regular basis, nearly every day. And this particular story has got very, very little coverage. So much so that I was out last night with a group of friends and I went to speak to a Spanish friend of mine about this particular story. And he has a general interest in current affairs and politics. He had no idea that this had happened. What I'm referring to is a town here called Alcala de Henares, which is northeast of Madrid. And like a lot of places in Spain at the moment, it has been housing a lot of immigrants which have arrived, mainly from Africa, in these hotels while they're waiting to be processed. Now, to give context on this particular story, is what has happened in that town. That hotel has been there for a while now, and it's generally housing only men. Now, a lot of the women in that town are complaining of being harassed by these immigrants and various not in the place not feeling safe. Once again, that's an alleged allegation because it could be a perception of how the immigrants are perceived, or it could actually be truthful. I can't speak for them because I don't live there. What I will say is it's now turned slightly uglier, and it's been reported that a young lady of 21 years old has been raped in that particular town. Now, what's happened here is it seems that that the person who's committed this particular crime is one of these refugees or immigrants staying in this hotel and is from Mali, which has caused all sorts of tension within that small city. Now, so much so that the residents seem to have had enough. And on Friday night, they took to the streets and decided to protest against the housing of these immigrants in their city. Now, doing some research into this particular story, I was quite shocked to see that this place particularly only seemed to house men. And some of the videos I was watching, once again, these are alleged, and maybe they've been doctored or not. It did seem to be men coming in a queue, with some of them with iPhones, with expensive headphones on and things like that, going into this hotel. Now, just that itself would stir up emotions amongst the Spanish, who are finding it quite hard at the moment, especially the working class ones, to make ends meet as the cost of living and the housing crisis here really bites into their day-to-day life. So I imagine seeing a bunch of Africans being shipped into a nice hotel and them carrying iPhones and having headphones like that would only rile them up slightly more. On the second night of these demonstrations, I think the people tried to approach the actual hotel itself, which brought the police onto the street and ended up in confrontation, which then turned nasty and violent. Now, if anybody's been here in Spain and been involved, be it in a football crowd or something like that, the Spanish police, especially the national police, aren't to be messed with, and they tend to hit first, ask later. So this demonstration or this demonstration soon turned violent. And as soon as missiles and things like that were thrown and people started covering their faces, the Spanish police got their riot shields out, got their helmets out, and started charging the crowd, letting off gas, plastic bullets, and things like that to disperse the people. Now, what's interesting about this whole debate is immigration is a very political subject at the moment. It's often used by a lot of political parties over all through Europe, and every single country at the moment seems to have some sort of right-wing party touching on far right in many places that use immigration as a weapon. I mean, you can look at Portugal, Italy, Germany, France, Sweden, Holland, lots of different places. The same problems are happening, that these immigrants are coming into these countries and being put into these hotels, and people are fed up with it. Now, of course, a lot of these people who are coming in are looking for a better way of life, but a lot of them are actually fleeing from war zones and are fearing for their lives. How we process them and make sure the right ones are being looked after is another matter. Now, once again, to put that into perspective, I think last year in Spain, close to 70,000 migrants arrived on small boats or similar into Spain, with almost 40,000 arriving just on the Canary Islands. Now, of course, these people can't they have to be processed, so they generally get spread around the communities and put into hotels or holding centres where they are processed. And of course, the ones which are entitled to asylum, I imagine, will get asylum, and the ones who aren't will be shipped back to where they've come from. Now, this is quite common practice, as it is in the UK. It makes news a lot there as well. But we had one down the road here not that long ago in a place called Benavis, which is a lovely little village, white village as they call it here, which is full of very nice Michelin-star restaurants. And during the winter, they decided to use one of the hotels there, which was temporarily shut for the season, to house some of these immigrants as they were being processed. This caused outcry in the local community and once again raised tensions. Now, before we go back to the north of Spain or the northeast of Spain, this little town here, Benavis, it's actually the first place in Spain that a far right, the political party Vox, were actually successful at local elections and actually held the town hall there for a small period of time. I believe they lost it at their last elections. Now, what's interesting is how immigration is being politicised. All over Europe, the same thing. I mean, if you listen to anything by the AFD in Germany or Nigel Farage's Reform Party in the UK, immigration is a hot topic. And it can be debated in many, many ways. I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong. It can be debated in many ways. But when political parties try and use it as a weapon, I always find that quite sad. Now, to give you some example here, we have a party here called Vox, who are considered the far-right party. Now, although a lot of their policies make complete common sense, a lot of their policies will be completely against what modern society deems as normal. Their abortion policy, their policy against homosexuality, they're very anti-woke. But a lot of people in Spain are moving towards this party, especially on their policies of immigration. Now, in the elections of 2019, this party were the first time they've actually got some decent amount of seats in the elections, and I think they actually got 54 seats in the government. Now, everybody was fearing when we came to the elections, I think it was in 2022, 23, whatever it was, that this party would grow and eventually get into a coalition with the PP party, which is like the Conservative Party here, which they've already done on several accounts and smaller levels in places like Valencia. This party are very clever with the way they market themselves. They use social media like a weapon, TikTok especially, and they send out messages of very short videos and try and get people's attention. And what shocked me really here was that if you look at the statistics of the people who vote for Vox, you'd always think it'd be the older generation, the people who would always say, oh, it's better when Franco was alive. I remember when Spain was like this. I remember when it was like that. But it's not. The predominant people who vote for Vox are under 35. So if they could shift some of the voters in the older bracket, I'm sure they could be very successful at the next elections, which are due in 2027. I did say 2026 in my last video, so I should correct that. Now, to give you an example of how clever this party is when it comes to marketing itself, as soon as these riots or this demonstration that turned into riots had occurred, they were there. On the Sunday, the leader of this party, Santiago Abascal, made an appearance where he was mobbed, basically, almost like a rock star at times. And one of the most interesting things of watching his appearance in that town was the amount of young people that were approaching him and telling him that they vote for him and they wanted him to do something about it. Now, this is an interesting debate here in Spain. What do you do about immigration? Because Spain is built on immigration at the moment, but we've had, I think, over the last 4 or 5 years, close to 2 million immigrants come in, mainly from South America, Central American countries, to fill in large holes in the workforce. But of course, you've got this other side of immigration, which is the African side, which, unfortunately, due to the colour of their skin, is often viewed very differently. I always thought what happened recently in the football, that the footballer Nico Williams, who's a superstar now for the Spanish football team, his story would ease tensions in Spain, because he is from the Sub-Sahara region. His family are from the Sub-Sahara region, and they came into Spain illegally and sought asylum, and he was born here. And he's quite happily and quite proud to wear the Spanish shirt. And I always thought that would be a turning point in Spain. If anything, this party Vox, once again, just seemed to be on the rise. And immigration, once again, is on the lips of everybody as it's pushed. One thing I must add to this is I have to question the media now in Spain, the mainstream media, because the lack of coverage of this story, which is a serious matter when a 21-year-old girl gets raped by a so-called asylum seeker, why it wasn't covered so much. Now, maybe it's because they don't want to push this, show this side of Spain, because it would only make things worse and maybe cause similar incidents elsewhere. But following or looking into these events and into some of these things, they're a lot more common as you would imagine. Not saying rape, but incidents with asylum seekers in small towns, which is quite sad because, as I said before, a lot of these people are seeking a better life from fleeing from a war zone. Now the dust has settled on this small town, we'll see what happens. Elections aren't that far away, but it does seem that Vox have almost given up their anti-Catalan separatist cause and thrown in complete with immigration. Because following them or looking at them on social media, every single post they seem to do now is immigration-led. And once again, it's a sad state of affairs that when someone does something wrong, everybody gets tarnished with the same brush. I remember I always use the example of in English football fans that sometimes 5,000 could be travelling abroad for a match, 100 or 50 would do something silly, and everybody is called a hooligan, which is not the case. Now, what way this will all go as elections approach us, for the maybe 16, 17 months away now, is will tensions rise? Will this political party Vox push this agenda more? But one thing I do hear people say here is a lot of the people who are immigrants here, who are assimilated into Spain, have Spanish passports now or Spanish identification, they don't want these people coming in, which is a very similar narrative that you hear in the States, that with a lot of the Latinos there who voted for Trump, they say they don't want people coming across the border because it gives them a bad name. And it seems to be that creeping into here as well. So where does it lead us? Where do we go? Why can't we all just love each other and get on? I do not know. But it is a very serious matter. Right, so if you got a take on this, please leave a comment in the comment section below, because I always get back to the comments, and give this video a like. What to do? What's the state of the world? I think you could substitute the word Spain with many countries around the world, and you see the same problems. So it's not isolated just to here, but it's definitely a serious matter. Let's hope things can get better on all fronts, because the last thing we want in the world is more problems. Right, that's all I've got time for today. Is for let you fill you in more of my recent findings, and that's about that. So you have yourselves a lovely day, and look after yourselves.